Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, we are going to cover the current affairs of 13th of May. For mobile optimized ebooks, please install GKToday Academy app. This is how you can get the current affairs in quiz format as well as in the digest format. And this is how you can attempt the quiz. For regular updates, please join our Telegram channel. The link of GKToday Academy app as well as the link of this Telegram channel is given in the description box of this video. Now let's start the quiz. What is the permitted stay period of an individual in India to be included as NRI in the context of tax calculation? So NRI stands for non-resident Indian. Now if someone is Indian, they need to pay tax in India. However, if someone is not Indian, then they need to pay the tax in the country in which they are residing. So the Union Budget of 2020 proposed to reduce the stay period of an individual in India to 120 days from the previous 182 days. But this reduction is only applicable to the person with less than rupee 15 lakhs as Indian income during the financial year. Now recently this issue was in news because Finance Ministry allowed a relief in determining the residential status. So if the person came in India before 22nd of March, that means before the announcement of lockdown, and the person was unable to leave India due to this lockdown, therefore this period in India will not be considered into account while calculating the NRI time period, because if they stay here more than 182 days, then they will have to file tax returns as Indian residents. Now let me just explain you with a simple example. Again, it is oversimplified, but just for the sake of understanding. Suppose you are A1 and A1 is living in USA. However, sometimes A1 visit his family and stay in India as well. So if A1 is staying more than 182 days in India, then A1 will have to file tax returns in India as well. The provisions of which act is relaxed by the state to increase the working hours of laborers. Right answer is Factories Act. So the provisions of Factories Act were relaxed to increase the working hours of laborers to revive the economic activity. And recently, Uttar Pradesh suspended key labor laws for the period of 3 years through an ordinance. Now, Article 123 of Indian Constitution contains the ordinance powers of President of India, while Article 213 contains the ordinance powers of Governor of particular state. Mission Saga, the initiative launched by Government of India, covers how many countries? So this Mission Saga was launched by government to provide assistance to the island nations in Indian Ocean, and it covers 5 countries. These 5 countries are Maldives, Mauritius, Seychelles, Madagascar, and Comoros. It is important to note that INS Kesari will provide essential medical and food supplies to these countries. So this Mission Sagar is associated to these 5 island nations in Indian Ocean. What is COVID Kavach ELISA that was in news recently? So it is a testing kit. Pune based NIV, that is National Institute of Virology, has successfully developed this indigenous antibody detection test kit for COVID-19, and the name of this test kit is COVID Kavach ELISA. Now this NIV is under ICMR. ICMR is Indian Council of Medical Research. It is under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So this ELISA stands for Enzyme Linked Immunosorbent Assay. So this is a test kit for coronavirus, and it is based on the detection of antibodies. Now suppose a person is infected by coronavirus. So the body of that person will start developing antibody to counter that virus, and this test kit detect those antibody. So if antibodies are present, that means the person was infected and the body of that particular person tried to fight that virus using these antibodies. Dhruv, that is Defense Research Ultraviolet Sanitizer, is developed by which organization? Right answer is DRDO. So DRDO developed an automatic sanitization cabinet named Dhruv. Actually, it is developed by RCI, that is Research Center Imarat at Hyderabad, and it is associated to DRDO. Now DRDO was also in news because of Notes Clean. So this is an automatic currency notes sanitizer developed by DRDO. DRDO was also in news because of COVSEC, and this is a COVID-19 sample collection kiosk. What is DRDO? It is Defense Research and Development Organization. DRDO is under Ministry of Defense. BPRND is an organization under which union ministry? So this BPRND stands for Bureau of Police Research and Development, and it is under MHA. Now why this organization was in news, as recently it released a manual in the context of fake news to help investigators and police officers to identify fake news. Now this BPRND was established under MHA in 1970, and this is a think tank which was formed for the modernization of police force. Now recently MHA was also in news, as RGI, that is Registrar General of India, is under MHA, and RGI recently released SRS. SRS stands for Sample Registration System, and RGI is Registrar General of India, and RGI is under MHA. Present Home Minister is Mr. Amit Shah, and present Home Secretary is Mr. Ajay Kumar Bhalla. Hari Shankar Vasudevan, who passed away recently, was associated with which profession? So he was well-known historian. We have already covered this news yesterday's news segment. So apart from him, recently former Lok Sabha MP Raja Rangappa passed away. So he was former Lok Sabha MP. In addition to him, recently Little Richard passed away, and he was the founding father of rock and roll. In addition to him, recently Rob Gibbs passed away, and he was veteran director and story artist. ICMR, that is Indian Council for Medical Research, announced a research collaboration with which company to develop a vaccine for COVID-19. So for this purpose, ICMR and Bharat Biotech International Limited are going to collaborate to develop a vaccine. So this NIV under ICMR, NIV stands for National Institute of Virology, had already isolated the strains of virus, and now this information will be shared with Bharat Biotech so that a vaccine can be developed for this virus. This NIV is in Pune. Pune is in Maharashtra, and recently Pune was in news as India's first intercity electric bus service was started between Pune and Mumbai. Pune was also in news as recently Pune Municipal Corporation launched Sanyam app. Where is the headquarters of United Nations World Tourism Organization? So the headquarters of UNWTO is in Madrid in Spain, and this organization is responsible for the promotion of tourism. Now recently it was in news because as per its latest report, the international tourism could decline by 60 to 80% due to this COVID-19 pandemic. Now Madrid is Spain, and recently Spain was in news as the Princess of Spain, Maria Teresa, was the first royal family member to die from COVID-19. Spain was also in news as it was the host of COP25 in Madrid in Spain, and this was organized under the presidency of Chile government. COP stands for Conference of Parties, and it was a part of UNFCCC, that is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and COP26 is going to be in Glasgow, and recently it was in news as it was postponed to 2021. Which day is celebrated in India on 11th of May to mark the achievement of nuclear test made at Pokhran in 1998. So recently on 11th of May, National Technology Day was celebrated to mark the day on which India conducted its nuclear test at Pokhran in Rajasthan in 1998. So in 1974, India conducted its first nuclear test, and it was codenamed as Smiling Buddha. And in 1998, we conducted another test, and it was codenamed as Shakti. And our former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, led this nuclear mission. So 11th of May is National Technology Day, while 28th of February is Science Day in our country. As per the recent data released by RGI, that is Registrar General of India, in SRS Bulletin, which state has the worst infant mortality rate in our country. So this SRS stands for Sample Registration System, and this data is released by RGI. RGI is under MHA. This data is related to 3 points. One is birth rate, another one death rate, and third one is infant mortality rate. So in terms of infant mortality rate, Madhya Pradesh had the worst infant mortality rate, while Nagaland had the best infant mortality rate. Madhya Pradesh had the infant mortality rate of 48 per thousand and Nagaland had the rate of 4 per thousand. In terms of birth rate, Bihar was on top while Andaman and Nicobar was at the bottom. In terms of death rate, Chhattisgarh had the highest death rate while Delhi had the lowest death rate. So now coming back to the question, which state has the worst infant mortality rate in our country? So Madhya Pradesh has the worst infant mortality rate in our country. Recently Madhya Pradesh was also in news because of Sanjeevani vehicle. Answer in comment box, what is the objective of this vehicle? Madhya Pradesh was also in news because of FIR Aapke Dwar initiative, and recently this was Bhopal. FIR Aapke Dwar means FIR at your doorsteps. So this initiative was started by Madhya Pradesh. Now Bhopal was also in news as recently India's first e-waste clinic was set up in Bhopal, and this is a collaboration between Bhopal Municipal Corporation and CPCB. CPCB stands for Central Pollution Control Board. It is a statutory body and it is under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Which Indian state witnessed the death of 13,000 pigs due to the outbreak of AFS, that is African Swine Fever? So recently the first instance of African Swine Fever in our country was reported in Assam, and it led to the death of approximately 13,000 pigs. Now, so far, there is no information about the transmission of this African swine fever from animal to human. Now, coming back to Assam, Assam was also in news as recently Assam government started Dhanvantri scheme. Answer in comment box, what is the objective of this scheme? The Suraksha Store initiative has been launched by which union ministry? So this initiative was started by Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. Why it was started? The aim of this scheme is to educate the Kirana store owners about the safety guidelines in order to prevent the transmission of this coronavirus. And for this purpose, recently the Department of Consumer Affairs under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs has partnered with the two important technology startups, and these startups are SafeJob and Seekify. And for this purpose, the ARrogatu app will also be utilized. Pranvayu is a respiratory health awareness program launched in which Indian city? So it was launched in Bengaluru, and it is an initiative by BBMP. What is BBMP? It is Brahat Bengaluru Mahanagar Palika. So this is an awareness initiative about the self-examination of respiratory health for the city dwellers. And this program aims at educating people with low oxygen level in their blood to check themselves at an early stage. What is HR 6819 that has been discovered by the European Southern Observatory, that is ESO? So this HR 6819 is a black hole, and recently the La Silla Observatory of ESO discovered this black hole, and the name of this black hole is HR 6819, and this observatory is situated in Chile, and this black hole is the nearest black hole from Earth. So these were the most important questions of today's quiz. Now we are going to cover important news. So first news is related to business section. Recently GSK, that is GlaxoSmithKline, announced its stakes in Hindustan Unilever for $3.35 billion. Next news is related to Sarthak application of Madhya Pradesh. Actually recently this was in news because of the privacy concern, and this is a mobile application by the state government of Madhya Pradesh to track the COVID-19 patients. However, a French ethical hacker showed there are serious privacy issues associated with this particular app. Next news is related to Uttar Pradesh, as recently Uttar Pradesh became the first state in our country to provide the facility of beds with ventilators in hospitals of each and every district. So Uttar Pradesh became the first state to do so. Recently Uttar Pradesh also became the first state to geotag the community kitchens. And for this purpose, Uttar Pradesh government partnered with Google. Uttar Pradesh was also in news as recently it became the first state to start pool testing. And recently it also became the first state in our country to have in-house virtual court. Next news is related to the book Finding Freedom. So this is the biopic on the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And this biopic is written by the Omid Scobie and Caroline Durand. Next news is related to Kempegowda International Airport of Bengaluru, as recently it won the Skytrax Award for the best regional airport in India and in Central Asia. Next is related to para-athlete Deepa Malik, as recently she announced her retirement, and she is the first Indian woman to win a medal in Paralympic Games, and in 2016 she won the silver medal in Summer Paralympic Games in shot put. Next is related to MSME Ministry, as recently MSME Ministry launched Champions Portal, and Champion stands for Creation and Harmonious Application of Modern Processes for Increasing the Output and National Strength. Again, you need not to remember the full form, but you should have a fair idea about it. This is an initiative by MSME Ministry to boost productivity using the modern processes. Next is related to Swasth Vayu. So this is a ventilator that has been developed by CSIR NAL. NAL stands for National Aerospace Laboratory and it is in Bengaluru. CSIR stands for Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. So this is a ventilator. That means the Swasth Vayu is a ventilator developed to treat the COVID-19 patients. Next is related to Central University of Odisha, as recently Union HRD Minister Ramesh Nishank launched Bharosa helpline for the students of Central University of Odisha with the objective of relieving the student community from the distress in this pandemic situation. So with the help of this Bharosa helpline, the emotional rehabilitation services will be provided. Next news is related to Israel, as recently India celebrated the 159th birth anniversary of Gurudev Ravindranath Tagore. Now in yesterday's lecture, by mistake I said 5th of May as his birth anniversary. Actually it is on 7th of May. So please correct this mistake. Okay, now coming back to the news. So Israel named a street after Ravindranath Tagore on his birth anniversary. And the name of street is Tagore Street. And this was named in Tel Aviv. Next is related to Sero Survey. So ICMR, that is Indian Council of Medical Research, and NCDC, that is National Center for Disease Control, are going to conduct this Sero Survey to learn about the prevalence of COVID-19 infection. What is Sero Survey? It is a testing of blood serum of individuals to determine the presence of antibodies. Next is related to Krishak Kalyan Cess. So recently Rajasthan government decided to levy 2% of Krishak Kalyan fees on the agricultural produce in mandis, and this will be used for the welfare of farmers. So these were the most important news. Thank you, and that's all for the day.